TAs will continue handing out materials you need, so try and pay attention while they're doing that. Do make sure you get everything. Quiet down, please. Thank you. So this is the EPICS first lecture for new students. If you're a returning student, if you've ever been in EPICS before, you are in the wrong place. You should leave now and proceed to Physics 223. Got at least one. Good. Okay. It's not working. It's just for the recording. Can you not hear me? Okay. Can you guys hear me okay in the back? Okay. I'll do my best to yell then. Today's lecture is just to get you familiar with what the concept of EPICS is. This is very different from any of the other classes you'll take. So this is not a quiz and exam type of course. Okay. So some of the things we want you to be able to do after this lecture are describe EPICS, so understand what it is. I want you to be able to list at least a couple of the expectations that you should have for your first lab session. Show of hands, how many of you had lab today already? Okay, so you guys are a little bit ahead of the game. Hopefully this lecture will clear up some of the course parts of what you talked about in lab. Hopefully your lab talked more about your project and what you're going to be doing. We'll talk a little bit about how EPICS is graded. Since we don't have quizzes and exams, it's a little bit different. We use holistic grading, so we're going to look at everything you do in the course. And then we're going to look at a couple of the things that will happen in the first few weeks of class, just so you get up to speed, okay? So you should have been handed out a design notebook. This is a free gift to you to use as your design notebook for class. A lot of your teams are not going to use these notebooks, and you can use them for whatever you want. Keep your diary in it and talk about my first day at Purdue, had this afternoon class. It's kind of weird. A lot of you are going to be using Microsoft OneNote. There are instructions on our website how to download and install OneNote on your computer, whether that's a PC or a Mac, iPhone, Android. OneNote's pretty much everywhere. So if your team is going to use that, that'll be up to your advisor. You'll find out in lab, but it's not a bad idea to go ahead and get it installed now. So in your notebook, whatever format you use, you're going to want to record all of the individual activities that you do in this course. So EPICS is a service learning design course, okay? So we're doing service projects with real community partners. These aren't made up projects, okay? So you're not doing this as a thought experiment. You're really going to design, build, and deliver these things to community partners. And it might not happen this semester, or your project might not have started this semester. These go on for a long time because they have real complexity, okay? If they were easy, they would have already been solved. It is a course, so you're getting a grade. So do keep track of everything you do in your notebook. That's really the only way we have to know what you did, because you may be on a team with 6 people, and we don't know if the other 5 did all the work and you did nothing, and that's all we can assume if you don't write anything down. So please do use your notebook. So in your notebooks, you're also going to record both the outcome of the activities you did and the process. So we want you thinking about how design happens, okay? So we want you to be reflective, think about it, write down the process. Here's the decision we made and how we came to that decision. Don't just say we chose to paint the room purple, but explain that you talked to the people who are going to live in the room and they liked the color purple, okay? So put down any contacts you have, resources. Future semesters will use your notebook. So future teams will build on your work. They will use your notebook. So please give them all the information they would need to proceed forward. So if you have somebody's phone number that you use a lot as a resource, write it down. And again, your reflective thinking. So think critically on the design process and write about it in your notebook. Your name should be on it. If that's in OneNote, that's easy. If it's on paper, you have to write it down. It's also easy. Make sure to record everything that you did. So your notebook should be like your answers to test questions in any other course, right? This is, if you want a good grade, put it in your notebook. As I said, there is a Microsoft OneNote template. So on each of your team's SharePoint drives, and I'll show you about SharePoint in a little bit, there is a notebook template for your team. and specifically for your project team. So each of our teams have multiple projects. You'll be on a project team. You want to make sure to connect into that notebook if you're going to use OneNote. Okay? The template is really helpful because it has all of your weekly assignments and prompts for everything you're supposed to do already there, so you don't have to go look for it somewhere else. Did everybody get a syllabus and all the handouts? Bunch of sheets of paper to read later? Do we still have TAs in here? Guys, there's a couple up here that don't have anything. Okay. So as introduction, my name is Andrew. I am your lab manager for EPICS. I'm a Purdue grad, did my bachelor's and master's here at Purdue. Went and worked in industry, in the orthopedic industry, at a company called Biomet. It's now called Zimmer Biomet after a merger, designing knee implants. Okay. I was an EPICS student when I was here, and I loved it, so I came back. All right. So EPICS is a really great experience. It will mean a lot to you if you put a lot into it. So it is really what you make it. If you don't put much effort in, you're not going to take a lot out of it. If you really work hard in this class, even though it's not a lot of credit hours, you'll really get a lot out of it, both professionally and personally. Okay? So from a professional perspective, this is the most like what your job will be when you leave here of anything that you will do on campus. Okay? So when you come into your EPICS team, you'll join a project team. You'll have an advisor who's a lot like what your boss will be when you have a job after you graduate. They're going to expect you to get work done, but they're not going to hold your hand. Okay? So you're going to have to do that work on your own. And if you put that effort in, you'll really develop professionally on how to do projects and how to work independently. And personally, when I was a student here, I helped develop a all-in-one musical instrument for children with disabilities for one of the local elementary schools. And we delivered it to the school, and you could see these kids who had never been able to play any musical instrument before bang on a drum or a cymbal by hitting a little button, because that was all they could move their hand. And the faces on these kids, they just lit up. They loved it, right? So that new experience, and all the projects you deliver are meeting real world needs like that. There are real people who have problems, needs, and we as designers can meet those needs, okay? And when I say designers, I say that intentionally instead of engineers, because we have people from all over this university in this room right now. You're not all mechanical engineers or electrical engineers, okay? But you all can contribute in whatever ways you want to apply yourself. So from your disciplinary knowledge or by extending yourself outside. This is a great place to get preparation to become a leader after you move on, okay? So every EPICS team has a number of leadership positions. You can step into those roles. You can learn how to lead a team, okay? That kind of experience is vital after you leave here. I can speak to that from personal experience, having led a bunch of design projects in an orthopedic company. When we poll our alumni, they all say the same thing. So everything I did, I learned lots of disciplinary knowledge in my other classes, but what I did in EPICS was most similar to what I did in my real job afterward, okay? So please take initiative and take risks. This is a safe place for you to learn and make mistakes. If you make mistakes in projects after you leave here, you might be fired. We won't fire you, okay? We're here to help you. You have way more support here than you will have afterwards. So we've got 13 TAs, I think. Can any TAs confirm? 13? 13 TAs from different disciplines. All can bring you help and knowledge. We've got a great staff that can bring you their experience in design. Most of our staff have industry experience. That's not true of every class you take at Purdue. So we can help you. We're good guides for your career. I get requests for letters of recommendation, things like that all the time. So please bring us those things. We're here to help you, not just in your EPICS course, but through your professional development. And have fun. EPICS can be a blast if you apply yourself and you get to go and deliver a project, okay? Or even if you just make a goofy prototype that doesn't work at all, it can still be a lot of fun. So EPICS is multidisciplinary design. As I mentioned, there are, I think, 70 majors represented this semester. So we've got over 450 students from all over campus. We have a number of industries. I don't know if you can see these very well, but they include HP, Microsoft, Tektronix, Eli Lilly, Caterpillar, Honeywell. It goes on, that participate with EPICS, okay? They come to our design reviews. They send engineers here. They recruit out of EPICS, okay? This is a great place to make yourself known to these companies. They hire people after Purdue. A lot of you probably freshmen and aren't really thinking about that yet, but it's why you're here, right? It is a service learning course, so all of our projects are going to a community partner. A lot of those are here in town, some of them are throughout the state, and we actually have, I think, 6 projects that are international now, or 6 project teams. So our community has expanded to the entire world. So it is a service activity, so the project you're building, no one's paying for it, you're designing it and building it and delivering it for free. And there are a number of learning objectives you'll have. So you will learn disciplinary knowledge. If you're an electrical engineer, you're going to practice that activity, right? If you're a mechanical engineer, same thing. If you're an education major, you're going to create lesson plans and curriculum, okay? You're going to exercise your discipline. You're also going to learn lifelong learning. So everyone who comes into EPICS has to do something they don't know how to do. And there's not a book or a textbook answer, right? So you're going to have to learn how to learn on your own. You're going to develop customer awareness. So all of those community partners, you're going to go out and visit them. Even if they're overseas, a lot of our teams go out over the summer. And you're going to spend hands-on time with them and see how important a person is in a design project. So when you go to design your cell phone, your toaster oven, your car, a computer program, all those things are made for people. And you're going to learn how to focus on those people and deliver them something that works for them, okay? And you're going to learn some social context, right? So social context, all these projects happen in places and people who have differences from you. And you're going to learn how to appreciate those differences, learn about them, and apply them to help your design improve. So the format of EPICS, we've got this 4:30 lecture that you're at right now. There's also a 5:30 lecture, but if you're thinking about switching, don't, because the 5:30 lecture is only today. After that, they're all online for them. So all of these lectures are taped. So you can go on and watch the lectures if you wanted to find something that you missed, or if you can't come to lecture, you can do a makeup. You'll have your EPICS lab. So that's a 2-hour section sometime throughout the week. I assume you all know when your lab session is. That lab session corresponds to your team meeting, okay? So that 2-hour block is when your whole team is going to get together. You're going to work with your project teams outside of that time, but this is probably the only time you'll get your entire team together. So my team tomorrow's got 26 people. We're not going to get them together, all 26 on a weeknight. They'll meet in small groups to get work done. But this is the time we all sit down together, say, here's what we've got done, here's what our goals are, and that's when you can kind of align your thought and work together, do lots of brainstorming, okay? Some teams get a lot of work done during that time. Some teams it's just a quick meeting and they get more work done outside of that session. That will be up to your team dynamic. So we do have 36 teams. Each team on average has about 3 projects. So there are about 100 projects going on all the time in our lab. So a lot of activity. So you are expected, if you're a 1 credit hour student, to work about 3.5 to 4 hours outside of your 2-hour lab session on your project, okay? That should show up in your notebook and in the progress you make on your project, okay? So that's how we're going to look and know that you've done that. You're not punching a time card. We have no other way to know that you're doing it. You also, if you're a 1 credit hour student, need to get 5 lecture credits. There is a 5 lecture series that starts with this one for new students, so you guys will be going to those. If you come back to EPICS, you can get those other ways through returning student lectures that are optional or skill sessions. You all can also register for skill sessions. Those are on my EPICS, which I'll show you in a little bit. In the skill sessions, you can learn things like how to solder or how to program or how to do woodworking, the specific technical skills you need to finish your project. So as I mentioned, you're all going to be asked to do things that you don't know how to do, but we're going to be there to help you and support you and build you in those skills, okay? If you're a 2 credit hour student, you can just pretty well double that. You need to be working about 8 hours outside of lab, and you'll have 10 lecture credits you need to get. So if you're a new student with 2 credit hour, you need 10 lecture units. You'll get 5 from this series of lectures. The other 5 you can do skill sessions. Would be the main way to get those, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Good. A couple hundred of you can. So this is a lecture credit showing up here, right? Okay. So your 5, you'll have a 5 lecture series to start the semester. It starts with this one, and that's at this time each week. If you need more than 5, so you're a 2 credit hour student, you're going to sign up for skill sessions. Okay. So again, on your notebooks, this time outside of the lab, make sure you document it in your notebook if you want a good grade. Okay. So your first team meeting, some of you had this today. You're going to introduce yourselves. You probably do some kind of an icebreaker activity. Anybody from my ISBVI team here today? What did you do for your icebreaker activity?
We didn't really do one.
Well,
we closed our eyes and arranged ourselves by youngest to oldest.
yeah, so a good example, this team is working with the Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. So they had to do a simple activity lining up in order from oldest to youngest, but they all had to do it blind, okay? So you build some empathy, it was fun, everybody was kind of laughing and trying to find each other in the atrium in Armstrong. So you'll do something like that. You're going to review the projects from last semester if they happened. If you're on a new team or you're on a team that's doing new projects, then it'll be new and your advisor will probably be telling you about the community partner. If it's returning students coming in, returning projects, you'll review what the last team did. Hopefully they had good documentation, and it'll make an easy transition. Expect that there will be a couple of weeks here at the beginning of the semester where you feel lost and struggle because a lot of the projects are complicated and hard to understand. And when you come in and you have 3 projects explained to you in a 2-hour session, it can be overwhelming. So don't be surprised if you're a little bit confused. Go through the team's documentation that's on SharePoint. That'll help you get up to speed. You'll probably this week determine team roles. That might take a week or 2, but each team has a number of leadership positions. Your advisor will help you through what those are, but those will be assigned. Hopefully you'll plan a trip to your project partner. Not all teams are able to visit their project partner every semester. A lot of them do, so you'll probably plan that here. At the least, you'll need to learn about them and understand what they're doing. Please, when you go into the labs for the first time, swipe your Purdue ID in one of the door swipes on the labs, okay? It won't work the first time, but this is how we capture your number, so make sure that you do swipe it. You also want to make sure you log into EPICS and SharePoint and make sure those are working. I know we already had some today that weren't, so we got to get those IT bugs worked out. So please try and make sure during your first lab session you do that. You should leave your first lab session with some kind of assignment task that you should be doing, okay? It's not going to be like a piece of paper handed out to you as homework most likely, but you're going to be asked to do something. Make sure you do that because that's what your advisor is doing to get you up to speed, okay? So you will begin thinking about goals and responsibilities. As I said, it won't be that clear in the beginning. Hopefully you have good leadership returning or at least good documentation. There will be some of the teams that are really heavy on first year or first time students. That's the way it goes, and it'll be on you to get up to speed quickly, and your advisor will probably help you along a little bit more. Do speak up and ask questions. If there's anything you don't know, be it in here or in the lab session, ask your TA and your advisor. I'm right across the hall from the lab. You can come in my office anytime as well, okay? So team organization on an EPICS team. As I said, there are a number of leadership roles. The first of those is the project manager. So the project manager is kind of the head student over the team from a management standpoint. The project manager on most teams is going to lead the team meetings. So they'll come in, start the meeting, walk you through what did you do last week, what are you going to get done this week, those kind of things. Some advisors will do that, most won't. Most will rely on the project manager. Your advisor and your TA are not going to tell you what to do week by week, okay? They're there to be resources and assist you and help make sure that you're making smart decisions, but they're not there to do the work for you. This is student driven. We want you to be leaders, okay? So under the project manager, you'll have a design lead. So as I mentioned, each team, the team is based on a community partner. So if you're a community partner, we're the Indiana School for the Blind. That's your community partner. You probably have multiple projects for that partner. So that particular team has 2. So we'd have 2 design leads. In this schematic, you'd have 3 projects, you'd have 3 design leads. The design lead is the person in charge of the design process for that particular project. Okay? So not for the overall team, but for that project. Along with that, you'll have a project archivist. The project archivist's job is to make sure that documentation is done well. So they're going to look at the team documentation. make sure that you get everything organized well. Their job is not to do all of your documentation for you. They just are the facilitator. Project partner liaison. If you have one project partner, you'll probably just have one of these for the whole team. Their job is to talk to the project partner, set up meetings, ask questions so that you don't have 20 different people sending them emails, phone calls, okay? So work through your project partner liaison, and then you'll have the individual team members, okay? So not all of you will have a leadership role, especially since you're first-time students, but first-time students are allowed and encouraged to take those roles as well. I talked about the project manager and design lead. The webmaster, each team will have a webmaster, not on a project basis, but on a team. You'll maintain the team web page. Some of the web pages you may want to build from scratch because they're not good. Some of them are excellent and they just need a new photo for the team and new roster and some description of what the projects are doing. So that can be kind of what you want it to be. And then there will be a team financial officer. So you will have to create a budget. So every team starts with a $200 budget just to get you started off the bat so you can start prototyping. You can request more than that by submitting a budget. We also put in grant requests to the Office of Student Engagement, so please do that. So if you like keeping books and doing the financial thing, sign up for that role. And like I said, new students can take on these roles. This is not only for returning students or for upperclassmen. Upperclassmen are not required to take on a leadership role, but it does happen that way a lot. So grading in EPICS is different from anything else. You're not going to have a number of points assigned to anything that you do. It's holistic grading. So we look at the sum body of the work that you've done this semester that you've recorded, that we're aware of, okay? So if you do a whole bunch of work and you don't write anything down, your advisor might see that because they see the progress your project has made, but they might not because you didn't write it down. So please make sure you document. I was terrible about that when I was a student. I still scrape through, but please do a good job with documentation. It only benefits you, right? It doesn't hurt us if you get a bad grade. It hurts you. So you're going to set team goals for your semester in the first few weeks in your semester plan. So you're going to have a semester timeline. You're going to set out some goals as to what you hope to accomplish this semester. And you're going to be held to those goals. So we'll benchmark you throughout the semester against where you said you were going to be. So set realistic goals, set good expectations. You also get individual responsibilities, and we'll kind of agree on expectations. Usually this, in my teams, just comes down to what team you're assigned to. So if you're assigned to a team to build a pair of roller skates, you might be the wheel sub-team of that team. And if by the end of the semester I see that the wheels are done, well documented, and they work, you get an A, or at least that you've made progress and effort in that direction, right? So your advisor, your TA may not say, this is your very specific role, but as long as we understand what sub-teams you're working on, what your responsibilities are. Grades will be checked throughout the semester. You may not get a letter grade during that time. You may just have a talk with your advisor somewhere at mid-semester, and they'll say, you're doing this well, these are the things you need to work on to move forward. So you can kind of grade yourself. We have an individual evaluation rubric you can use for that. And you want to point to evidence to support the grade you gave yourself. So if you say, I got a lot of work done on the wheel design, then you can point to your CAD document that shows the design of the wheel, sketches that you've made, pictures of prototypes, things like that. So keep those kind of artifacts. Take pictures, take video, those sorts of things. So the most common grade in EPICS is an A, but I would not say that EPICS is an easy A, okay? Most people get an A because when you get into your project team and you see the projects that you're working on, you'll be inspired enough to work hard and earn an A. And we have had great students sign up for EPICS. I think it's a certain type of student that wants to do a class like this. So we tend to get great people. But the A's are earned. They're not just given for you showing up. So we do think about, are you a freshman or a senior? There's different expectations, right? So you should have more disciplinary knowledge if you're along the way. So there are differences in the classes. There are differences between a 1 credit hour and 2 credit hour student from what we expect. But if you come in, demonstrate excellence, work hard every week, an A is very attainable in this class. So again, the general grading guidelines, an A is excellence, a B is good achievement, a C is adequate achievement. Below that is inadequate achievement. I know that wording is not very specific, but that's what it is because it is a holistic grading process. I think we talked that over pretty well. So some resources you're going to need to know about. I'll open these up. So the first one is the EPICS website. Up here. So it's epics.ecn.purdue.edu. That'll be in your syllabus. And you're going to want the Purdue tab right here. So if you're into bookmarking, this is where you want to bookmark. This is where you'll find most of the documents that you need for this class. Primarily, most of the ones that you're going to need are going to be either here in individual document section or in team documents. Okay, so this is a great place to go to find any of the assignments that you see on a week-by-week basis. So whenever you hear you have something due, usually your project manager will tell you, everybody remember that the individual evaluation is due next week, and then you'll find that here. Okay, so whenever you need those documents, you can come here. If you happen to be a senior design student, I think there might be a couple in here. The senior design tab here will give you a ton of information about what you need. So look there. The other thing to know is there are resources here that will tell you about our lab. If you want to submit a 3D print request, that's here. There are a lot of helpful resources there, so look through that information. Also important to know about are these 4 boxes. This week in EPICS, this will tell you what lectures you have this week, what skill sessions are this week, and what's due this week. So on any given week, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, it's right there, okay? So you can come to this. The next thing you'll need to know about is MyEPICS. So that's linked here right on the top of the web page. Log into MyEPICS, and this is where you'll find grading information. This is where you'll be able to do your evaluations of one another in your team, things like that. So you'll end up coming here a lot. And the last one is SharePoint. So if you've never used SharePoint before, it's a file storage tool. So this is where you can put files where your team can find them and future teams can find them. So for example, the AAEE team, which is our team that works with Purdue Space Day, this is their SharePoint page. They'll have a lot of information under semester documentation. Some may be under project documentation. But if you go onto the SharePoint site, find your team, and go through those project and semester documentation tabs, you'll be able to get caught up to speed as to what your projects are doing. So probably after your first lab session later this week, you'll want to go through this. The one other tab here to really know about is the notebook tab. And there'll be a template in here. So this is where you'll go if you're doing the OneNote notebooks. Your TA should walk you through this in your lab session if you're going to use them, but this is where you would find it. Okay. So in the template, if you go to Open Notebook, this might take a minute to open. You've got a template here for everything that you'll need to do through the semester. So if you come down to the student template, you can copy this template for yourself and rename it for yourself, and it will give you on any given week, what are my weekly goals? What did I get done this week? That's where you can put in photos or sketches, anything that you've done. What did I decide or do in our team meetings, both in our lab session and without? And then there's a section for reflection. So when I talked about reflective thinking, this is where that would happen, or where you would document it. So those are some of the tools that you'll need to know. Nothing too complicated. The one other thing I wanted to point out on the on the website, the makeup lecture link is here. So if you do have to miss lecture, this is where you go. The lectures are put on YouTube, so you can watch it on YouTube, and then you go into MyEPICS and fill out a form showing that you did that. Okay. Also in the notebook guidelines, under individual documents, at the bottom there is a OneNote setup instructions. So if you don't